Hello, David. Hello, hello, hello. Hello, David.
Selectmen late. Hello.
David, how are you?
Doing well. I think I heard your voice when I was running around the hallway back here. Sorry about that.
I didn't know if you could hear me or not.
I don't know what I can hear or not either, but we got a full house of attendees already.
Really
Hello,
good.
hello, all attendees.
Glad to hear it.
Sorry, I'm not quite as prepared as I want to be.
It's unfortunate. I'm sorry too.
All right.
But because of you, I am prepared. So thank you very much.
Welcome. Best you can. Might be a short meeting if we don't have a couple other selectmen joining here. Oh, there's one.
There's the chair.
Hello.
Hello, lately.
Just gonna go check me.
He's gone again.
What's he checking on?
I don't know. I got nothing. Checking on something.
TV. Make sure you're being broadcasted on cable as well as live streamed and everything else.
Looks fine. You'll be fine.
It is what it is.
Nice just to be able to take that washcloth and go this, right?
That's me. I got nothing here. All gone. Hey, Jordan.
Hi, Jordan.
Good evening. Excuse me. We're going to see how well we can pump the brakes leading up to 6:30. Hopefully you have a long administrator's report, David.
You can always take things out of order.
I know. There's not a whole lot of quick dispatch items, I don't think, here, but we'll see how it goes.
Oh, liquor licenses might go quick.
Hi, Mike.
Hello, and thank you, David, for seeing me.
You're welcome. I wonder what's going on or not going on.
I don't know. I think I dove into, like I said, the bowels of the portal of the GWI mail, and I couldn't find hide nor trace of it. So I don't know. I haven't seen one in a few weeks. So that's...
Well, it's 6 p.m., everybody. Let's get rolling. Welcome, everyone, to the Lincolnville Selectmen's meeting. It is the 12th of April. We are having a remote meeting via Zoom because we are still operating under the state of emergency as declared by our governor. This is a public meeting, and so we do encourage the public to view, participate, communicate in any way that they can, electronically, digitally, telephonically, or other similar means. And if you have questions about that, please feel free to contact us at the town office. The public will be able to participate via the chat feature. We ask that you use the virtual hand raise mechanism that is available to you in the lower part of your screen, or wave frantically, and no doubt someone will notice, and we will bring you over to speak if you wish to do so with the board. So before we get going, Kern, would you please read the quote of the evening, which you'll find on page 2 of our agenda?
There we go. To stay ahead, you must have your next idea waiting in the wings. Rosabeth Moss Kenter.
Thank you very much. And also, just as a reminder to anyone watching, All actions taken by the board will be done via roll call, including adjournment. So if there's no questions there, let's move along to the administrator's report.
Just want to let everybody know that nomination papers were due last Friday. We had 4 people take out papers for the Lincolnville Central School Committee and return them. All have qualified for the ballot. We had 2 individuals take out nomination papers for the selectmen and return them. Both of those folks qualified for the ballot. And no one took out papers for the 5-town CSD board. And no one took out papers for the budget committee. So those positions will still be on the ballot and eligible for people to write in candidates. And just a reminder for those of you that are dog owners that haven't relicensed your dogs, those were due by the end of January. It's now April. You get a little pass on the late fee if you come in and do it soon based on executive order of the governor, but don't let it linger. Outside of that, I guess everything else is on the 2-page agenda. First one in 18 years that went 2 pages.
Really?
I think so.
We may have squeezed the font on a couple of them.
Oh, definitely, definitely. We digress.
If there's no questions for David and the administrator's report, let's move along to upcoming meetings and announcements.
The planning board is scheduled to meet remotely Wednesday, April 14th, 7 p.m. The town office will be closed on Monday, April 19th in observance of Patriots Day. And the Board of Selectmen meet next on Monday, April 26th, 6 p.m.
Thank you very much. Are there any upcoming community events anyone wishes to share or make us aware of? Not seeing anything. Let's move along to the meeting minutes from March. We have 2 sets of meeting minutes to approve.
I move that the board approve the March 22nd, 2021 meeting minutes as presented.
Second.
Moved by Selectman Late, seconded by Selectman Garrettson. Is there any discussion? Yes, Mike.
You're muted, Mike.
You couldn't, yeah, on lines 338 through 344, pages 8 through 8 of 9. Anyway, talks about, it's kind of unclear. I was talking about the link, it reads kind of like as if the Lincolnville Woodshed gave out 150 cords of wood, when it's actually the Waldo County Woodshed distributed 150 cords of wood, and through 11 depots. Lincolnville was one of those depots, and it gave out, it served 17 clients. I don't know how you want to change that.
Okay, noted. Yeah. Any other discussion? Would Selectman Late and Selectman Garrettson wish to amend their motion?
I definitely would amend my motion to reflect what Selectman Ray reiterated.
And I second that.
Excellent. Any further discussion there? Seeing nothing, Selectman Late, what's your vote?
Yes.
Selectman Garrettson,
Yes.
Selectman Ray,
Yes.
Selectman Barnett Parker.
Yes.
Wonderful, motion passes. And we have a second set of meeting minutes from the 30th.
I move that the board approve the March 30th, 2021 meeting minutes as presented.
Second.
Moved by Selectman Late, seconded by Selectman Ray. Any discussion there? Not seeing anything. Selectman Late, what's your vote?
Yes.
Selectman Garrettson,
Yes.
Selectman Ray,
Yes.
Selectman Barnett Parker,
Yes.
and Selectman Dunn. My vote is yes. And I neglected to vote on the last motion. Whoops. I retroactively vote yes. Okay, moving rapidly along. We have a liquor license renewal application for the Lobster Pound Restaurant. Do we have a representative here, David, or?
We do. I'll bring Barry over just a moment here.
Oh, yeah, there. Okay. And welcome, Barry. Thank you for joining us this evening. Are there any questions from the Board of Selectmen for Barry?
Thank you for coming.
Okay. I'm not seeing.
Oh, thank you. Sorry, I was muted.
No, that's okay. Well, if there aren't any questions for Barry, do you wish to address the board?
No, same old, guys. We're just hoping for a really good season this year with, all of this, delayed getting out and getting into restaurants and stuff like that. We're hoping for a really good season. So keep our fingers crossed.
We hope that for you as well. If there is no questions or comments from the board, I'll entertain a motion.
I move that the board approve and sign the liquor license application submitted by Lafayette Lincolnville LLC, doing business as the Lobster Pound Restaurant.
Second.
Moved by Selectman Late, seconded by Selectman Garrettson. Is there any discussion? Not seeing anything. Selectman Late, what's your vote?
Yes.
Selectman Garrettson, what's your vote?
Yes.
Selectman Ray?
Yes.
Selectman Barnett Parker?
Yes.
Selectman Dunn, my vote is yes. Motion passes. Thank you very much. And David, you're going to want everyone to come into the town office, or?
Yeah, yes, we would. And Barry, would you prefer that we mail that to you folks, drop it off down to the restaurant, or somebody want to come in and pick it up after it's signed? It'll be
If you drop it in the mail to the Fireside Inn in Belfast, I think that's the address I had on it.
Okay.
That would work well, David.
Actually, it had the address of Littlefield Ave, Bangor.
Oh, that's the home office. It might get lost there.
Fireside Inn in Belfast?
Yes, it's 159 Searsport Avenue.
Yeah, we'll find you.
Okay, thank you, David.
Thank you.
Thank you, Chair. Thank you, Selectman.
Thanks for joining us, Barry.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Have a great night.
You too.
And as we are going to try to hold to the 6:30 time for our public hearings that we have scheduled, I would like to jump ahead in our agenda to some things that we will not cut off potential conversations. So with the board's agreement, let's move along to agenda item number 14, consideration of the annual town meeting warrant. And we'll just keep an eye on the clock. So enclosed, we have the final draft of the town meeting warrant. The budget committee has made their recommendations and approval. Anything else, David, that you want to add with regards to the warrant?
No, we're all set to send it to the printers so that we can get absentee ballots back in time to have them available 30 days prior to June 8th. And just need your vote of approval and we'll move forward.
Yep. So as such, I'll entertain a motion.
I move that the Board of Selectmen approve and sign the annual town meeting warrant for June 8th, 2021.
So moved.
Second.
Seconded by Selectman Garrettson. Is there any discussion? Seeing no discussion, Selectman Late, what's your vote?
Yes.
Selectman Garrettson.
Yes.
Selectman Ray.
Yes.
Selectman Barnett Parker.
Yes.
And Selectman Dunn, my vote is yes, the motion passes. Thank you all. And we might as well move along to the consideration of the special town meeting warrant for the LCS budget for June 8th, 2021. Any questions there? Or David, do you want to add any comments?
Just want to let the voters know that this will also be considered via referendum ballot, a separate referendum ballot on Tuesday, June 8th. Absentee ballots, again, with this will be available 30 days prior to the election, or you can vote in person in the school, in the gymnasium from 8 a.m. to 8 p.m.
Great, thank you. If there's no immediate conversation, I will entertain a motion.
I move that the board approve and sign the special town meeting warrant for June 8th, 2021 for the consideration of the Lincolnville Central School budget.
So moved.
Second,
And that was you, Selectman Ray?
yes.
Okay. So moved by Selectman Late, seconded by Selectman Ray. Is there any discussion? Seeing no discussion, Selectman Late, what's your vote?
Yes.
Selectman Garrettson?
Yes.
Selectman Ray?
Yes,
Selectman Barnett Parker?
Yes.
And Selectman Dunn, my vote is a yes, the motion passes. Thank you all. Let's move along to agenda item number 16, countersigning the warrant and notice of election calling the 5-town community school district budget referendum for the 9th of June of this year. Any questions or comments on this? I will entertain a motion.
I move that the board approve and countersign the warrant and notice of election calling 5-town community school district budget referendum to be conducted on June 8th, 2021.
Second.
Moved and seconded. Point of clarification, David, our notes, let me just double check. I want to make sure we get the date right for this. Is it the 8th or the 9th? 8th, right?
It will be the 8th,
8th, yeah, okay.
regardless of what I might have typed in the minute.
Of course, yep, okay, excellent, great, thank you. If there's no other discussion, Selectman Late, what's your vote?
Yes.
Selectman Garrettson?
Yes.
Selectman Ray?
yes.
Selectman Barnett Parker?
Yes.
And Selectman Dunn, my vote is yes, the motion passes. Thank you all. And oh boy, we've got 15 minutes before our hearing. I'm going to recommend, because I think it's a pretty quick conversation, that we entertain a motion to suspend our meeting as the Board of Selectmen and address the item before us as the Board of Assessors. If someone would like to make that motion for agenda item number 13.
I move that we suspend our meeting as the Board of Selectmen and that we convene as the Board of Assessors.
Second.
Moved by Selectman Garrettson, seconded by Selectman Late. Any discussion there? Seeing no discussion, Selectman Late, what's your vote?
Yes.
Selectman Garrettson,
Yes.
Selectman Ray,
Yes,
Selectman Barnett Parker.
Yes.
Selectman Dunn, my vote is yes. We are now convened as the Board of Assessors. David, do you want to reiterate what Vern supplied for us?
Sure is. Going a little faster than I go. Oh, there we go. I'm caught up. Apparently a property owner transferred a portion of property to a new owner in the last year. And unfortunately, we assessed the new owner for all of the property, including buildings that weren't on their property that they were assessed for. Obviously, that property owner then raised a question flag. Whoa.
Whoa.
And brought that to the assessor's agent's attention. who's now recommending that a reduction in value of $29,500 be done, which would correct the error. And the tax amount that would be abated would be $454.30.
Excellent. Thank you for that. Any follow-up questions from the board? If there are none, I will entertain a motion.
I move that the board grant abatement number 2020-06 to Matthew and Molly Epperson, account number 1370, in the tax amount of $454.30 to correct an error in the record regarding the valuation of the land and buildings.
Second.
Moved by Selectman Garrettson, seconded by Selectman Late. Is there any discussion? Seeing no discussion, Selectman Late or Assessor Late, what's your vote?
Yes.
Selectman Garrettson,
Yes.
Selectman Ray,
Yes.
Selectman Barnett Parker,
Yes.
Selectman Dunn. My vote is yes. The motion passes, and having dispatched this item, I need a final motion to continue our business as Board of Selectmen.
I move that we adjourn our meeting as Board of Assessors and reconvene as the Board of Selectmen.
Second.
I saw a hand and I heard a voice. You got the second there.
Selectman Barnett Parker
Okay.
got it, I think.
Okay, so moved by Selectman Late, seconded by Selectman Barnett Parker. Any discussion? Seeing no discussion, Selectman Late, what's your vote?
Yes.
Selectman Garrettson,
Yes.
Selectman Ray,
Yes.
Selectman Barnett Parker,
Yes.
Selectman Dunn. My vote is yes. We are now reconvened as the Board of Selectmen. Okay, let's see. Let's do select board updates. Selectman Late, what do you have for us?
Yeah, nothing. We're going to meet for Midcoast Solid Waste Board of Directors. I believe probably Josh knows this as well. We'll meet the first week of next month. Things are going good. I really have nothing to say. I know that doesn't make any sense at all, but we really don't.
No news is good news.
Exactly.
It's okay. It's all right to have downtime. Selectman Garrettson, what do you have for us?
Well, the coalition front, a lot's been happening, just lots of meetings with state senators and state representatives, and just trying to learn as much as possible about everything that's happening on the national front with Connect Maine. We're having our monthly meeting this Wednesday, and in terms of what's happening, I guess consequentially, Canada and Rockport are trying to get something on the ballot for June to form the interlocal, to have an interlocal agreement between the two towns. And once there is an interlocal agreement, the regional broadband utility will be formed, and then it can actually start applying for grants, receiving funding, all of those things. Right now, we're really just a collection of towns that meet and talk about broadband. So that needs to happen. And then after that, other towns can sign on, but they're starting with those two towns first and going from there.
Okay, thank you. Selectman Ray, do you have an update for us?
Only that I was contacted by somebody who was concerned about sidewalks in the center, and by email, and they've gotten on the agenda for our next meeting. So we'll be hearing about that next time.
Okay,
That's it.
Selectman Barnett Parker.
I have nothing new to add.
Okay. And I also have no updates. I kept feeling like there's something that I'm probably forgetting, but I have nothing to update the board with as well. Let's talk about the treasurer and payroll warrant. Does anyone wish to make a motion there?
Yeah, I do. If I could find it. Yeah. Well, 18 here, right?
Under.
21, yeah.
I move that the board approve the treasurer's and payroll warrants.
Second that.
Moved by Selectman Late, seconded by Selectman Ray. Any discussion there? Okay, gonna take my time. Seeing no discussion, Selectman Late, what is your vote?
Well, let's see. Yes.
Selectman Garrettson,
Yes.
Selectman Ray,
Yeah, I'll go with yes too.
Selectman Barnett Parker,
Yes.
and Selectman Dunn. My vote is yes. The motion passes. And just in case any of our attendees that are so patiently waiting, we do have public hearings scheduled for 8 minutes from now. So I'm just trying to tick off some of the more truncated business that we have to attend to. And I think we can dispatch with this item fairly quickly. So would the board be willing to jump back to agenda item number 12? And we have a number, and all of this is contingent on whether the board wishes to interview the individuals who have submitted community interest forms or not.
I do not wish to interview any of them. I am satisfied with their applications, and I want to improve everyone on the list.
I don't want to interview anyone either.
I'll third that emotion.
Selectman Late?
No, I don't need to interview any of them. I've read all of the community interest forms, and outside of one not having any references, but we were asked to reference former broadband committee members as their references. I'm good with all of them.
Yep, I agree. I feel we can proceed through, so that simplifies things. And so with respect to any of the applicants who have been patiently waiting, thank you. But I will ask the board to make a first motion, please.
One quick question. Do you want to go through these all individually? I mean, we've got 1, 2, 3, we've got 4 for the comprehensive plan review committee, or can we add all of those names into one, or?
David, yes.
I think you'll have to do them individually just because they can't all serve the same term.
Right.
Because for the comprehensive plan, there are
We have to use the year.
they're staggered terms, so you have to figure out how long you want each one to serve.
Well, we can see how far we get, and we can always put a pin in the conversation and revisit it too.
I think you can get there. Just do it.
The challenge has been thrown down. Who would like to make the first motion?
I move to appoint Cheryl Nevis to the Comprehensive Plan Review Committee as a regular member with term expiring June 2021.
So moved.
Second.
Seconded by Selectman Garrettson. Any discussion? Seeing no discussion, Selectman Late, what's your vote?
Yes.
Selectman Garrettson, what's your vote?
Yes.
Selectman Ray.
Yes.
Selectman Barnett Parker.
Yes.
Selectman Dunn, my vote is yes, the motion passes. Second motion, please.
I move to appoint mclaughlin Pike to the Comprehensive Plan Review Committee as a regular member with a term expiring June 2022.
Second.
Moved and seconded. Any discussion? Seeing no discussion, Selectman Late.
Yes.
Selectman Garrettson.
Yes.
Selectman Ray.
Yes.
Selectman Barnett Parker.
Yes.
Selectman Dunn, my vote is yes. Motion passes. Third motion, please.
I move to appoint Drew Strout to the Comprehensive Plan Review Committee as a regular member with a term expiring June 2022.
Second.
Moved and seconded. David, just for clarification, does he need to be 2023 or can he be 2022 also? I'm just wondering how many overlaps we're looking for here.
You can have 2 for any one of those years, but no more than 2.
Okay, so 2022 will be out after this. Okay, Selectman Late, what's your vote?
Yes.
Selectman Garrettson,
Yes.
Selectman Ray,
Yes.
Selectman Barnett Parker.
Yes.
Selectman Dunn, my vote is yes. Motion passes. Thank you very much. And a fourth motion, please.
I move to appoint Patricia Shannon to the Comprehensive Plan Review Committee as a regular member with the term expiring June 2023.
Second.
Moved and seconded. Any discussion? Seeing no discussion. Selectman Late,
Yes.
Selectman Garrettson,
Yes.
Selectman Ray,
Yes.
Selectman Barnett Parker.
Yes.
Selectman Dunn, my vote is yes, the motion passes. And we do have 2 for the broadband committee. I will entertain a motion.
Move to appoint Gina Sawyer to the Broadband Committee as a regular member with a term expiring June 2021.
Second.
Second.
Moved and seconded. Any discussion? Seeing no discussion. Selectman Late,
Yes.
Selectman Garrettson,
Yes.
Selectman Ray,
Yes.
Selectman Barnett Parker.
Yes.
Selectman Dunn, my vote is yes, the motion passes. Second motion, please.
I move to appoint Stephen Coltai to the Broadband Committee as a regular member with a term expiring June 2021.
Second.
Moved and seconded. Any discussion? Seeing no discussion. Selectman Late,
Yes.
Selectman Garrettson,
Yes.
Selectman Ray,
Yes.
Selectman Barnett Parker.
Yes.
Selectman Dunn, my vote is yes, the motion passes. Any final motion, please?
I move to appoint Stephen Colcock to the Midcoast Internet Coalition as a regular member with a term expiring June 2021.
Second.
Moved and seconded. Any discussion? Seeing no discussion. Selectman Late,
Yes.
Selectman Garrettson,
Yes.
Selectman Ray,
Yes.
Selectman Barnett Parker.
Yes.
And Selectman Dunn, my vote is yes, the motion passes. Thank you all very much for attending and also applying and for serving your community. We look forward to seeing the work that you all do. And with that, it is 6:30 on the nose. So let's jump back to our regularly scheduled program. And let me undo my mess of notes here. And we have 2 applications. The first being the Lincolnville Motel. And David, do we have
We do.
the applicant here?
She's here, I believe. Yes, she is.
Okay. And everyone has a copy of her application, and I would like a motion, please.
With the vote. For number 7,
Yep, for the public hearing.
I move that the board open a public hearing concerning the liquor license application being sought by the Lincolnville Motel.
Second.
Second.
Moved and seconded. Any discussion? Seeing no discussion. Selectman Late,
Yes.
Selectman Garrettson,
Yes.
Selectman Ray,
Yes.
Selectman Barnett Parker,
Yes.
Selectman Dunn. My vote is yes. The public hearing is now open. Do we have any members of the public that wish to ask the applicant or the board any questions? David, are you aware of any?
We had none submitted via email. I don't see anything in the chat, and I don't see any hands going up by attendees who I believe are all here for other items, but I'll keep talking for a moment so they can figure out if they want to hit the button to talk. Let's say you're good to go to the next phase.
Excellent. That's great. Well, having heard from the public, which is nothing, I will entertain a follow-up motion, please.
I move that the board close the public hearing.
So moved.
Second.
Seconded by Selectman Garrettson. Is there any discussion? Seeing no discussion, Selectman Late, what's your vote?
Yes.
Selectman Garrettson,
Yes.
Selectman Ray,
Yes.
Selectman Barnett Parker.
Yes.
Selectman Dunn, my vote is yes. The public hearing for the Lincolnville Motels application is now closed. Now, does the board wish to ask the applicant any questions? Welcome, Alice.
Hi, Lily. Thanks for having me.
Yeah, welcome in this digital format.
So exciting.
Yeah, we're really excited for you.
Yeah. I was going to say, I don't have any questions. I just also was super excited to know you're in the area and see what you're going to do with the business. I know it's probably going to be something incredible. So yeah, just psyched. Really good to see you in town.
Thanks. Likewise, long time, Jordan. But no, I really think this can be a good step forward for the business, and we'll just help it diversify. And the plan with the liquor license to help support a food program to go into effect this year. So takeout window service for guests, and just to make it a little bit more fun and exciting for everybody.
Any other questions from the board? Okay, if there's no other questions for Alice, I will entertain a motion.
I move that after having held a public hearing, that the board grant the liquor license requested by the Lincolnville Motel.
Second.
Oh boy, it's moved by Selectman Late. I heard Selectman Garrettson, so I'm going to give the second to Selectman Garrettson. Any follow-up discussion? Seeing none. Selectman Late, what's your vote?
Yes.
Selectman Garrettson,
Yes.
Selectman Ray,
Yes.
Selectman Barnett Parker,
Yes.
and Selectman Dunn. My vote is yes. The motion passes. Everyone, please get in to get your signatures on those pieces of paper. And David, can Alice then come and pick up her application from the town office? Or
Yeah,
have
we
it-
can, whether she'd prefer it mailed to her or come pick it up, but give us a couple days to get the signatures if you would.
Certainly, I'm not going anywhere exciting, so I will be happy to come get it whenever. You can let me know, or you can mail it to me. Either way is totally fine.
We'll give you a jingle and make arrangements.
Thank you.
Super. Well, thanks. Have a great evening. Enjoy
Have a
the
good
rest of the
season.
sunshine.
I'm really impressed by the
Whoops.
Oh!
Getting a nice compliment.
Thanks.
Sorry, Alice.
Thanks, Alice. David,
You are the weakest link.
Bye.
I don't think David intentionally cut you off, but we'll leave it at you were impressed. We'll take that. Okay, let's move along to our second new applicant that we have before us, Pine Grove, Maine, formerly Pine Grove Cottages, and I will entertain a motion for the public hearing, please.
I move that the board open a public hearing concerning the liquor license application being sought by Pine Grove, Maine.
Second.
Seconded by Selectman Late. Any discussion? Seeing no discussion, Selectman Late, what's your vote?
Yes.
Selectman Garrettson,
Yes.
Selectman Ray,
Yes.
Selectman Barnett Parker,
Yes.
Selectman Dunn. My vote is yes. The motion passes. The public hearing for the liquor license being sought by Pine Grove, Maine is now open, and we welcome both Brian and Rebecca, and do we have any members of the public that wish to ask questions?
You had nothing submitted via email. I see nothing in the chat, and like, once again, I'll talk very slowly to see if anyone puts their hand up in the participants, but I'm gonna venture a guess you won't have any. You have none so far.
We'll just take our time moving along to the motion that will follow up, which not seeing any hands going up now. I will entertain a final motion for the public hearing.
I move that the board close the public hearing.
Second,
Second.
Moved by Selectman Late, seconded by Selectman Ray. Is there any discussion? Seeing no discussion, Selectman Late, what's your vote?
Yes.
Selectman Garrettson,
Yes.
Selectman Ray,
yes,
Selectman Barnett Parker.
Yes.
Selectman
Yes.
Dunn, my vote is yes. The motion passes. The public hearing is now closed. And this is now the opportunity for the board to ask any questions, or if you wish to address the board at all, please go ahead. Any questions for our applicants?
Yeah, I just, I would have asked the other applicant, but I know they're back. And I was just curious if this is your first time handling a liquor license in this kind of a business.
Yes, yes, it is. Yep, and we're very excited that we want to be able to support the other small businesses in the area. So we couldn't be more excited.
All right. Thank you.
Any other questions for our applicants? Okay, not seeing anything. Thank you both for popping in here this evening, and we wish you the best of luck with your business. I will entertain a motion.
I move that after having held a public hearing, that the board grant the liquor license requested by Pine Grove, Maine.
Second.
Moved by Selectman Late, seconded by Selectman Barnett Parker. Is there any discussion? Seeing none. Selectman Late, what's your vote?
Yes.
Selectman Garrettson,
Yes.
Selectman Ray,
yes.
Selectman Barnett Parker.
Yes.
Selectman Dunn, my vote is yes. The motion passes. Thank you both.
Thank you.
Thank you so much, and it's great to meet all of you. We appreciate it.
Thank you. Good luck.
Thank you.
Thank you.
I'll move,
Okay.
I'll move slowly so I don't cut them off if they're saying that.
All right, folks. Well, we now have, we're going to move along with the remainder of our agenda, I think, as reasonably scheduled as we can. We have Jay Foster, who will be joining us. Do we see Jay?
I don't. I do see one person that's listed as owner, and I don't know who that is, but
Yeah.
perhaps if that's Jay, you could raise your hand, Jay, or something. I do note that.
Oh, maybe it is. Hand raised.
There we go. Woohoo! Whoever it is headed your way.
Great.
As we know, I can always send them back. I'm pretty good at that.
Is it Jay? The suspense builds.
Yes.
Any moment.
Can you hear me?
You
Yeah,
can.
we can hear you. Not anymore because you're muted.
All right, you're on our side. Yep. Unmuted. And if you have video, great. If you don't, that's fine also.
How's
Good.
that?
There you are.
Great.
Welcome, Jay.
Thank you. I'm in North Carolina, so things are a little different here than they are at home.
There you go. Well, welcome and thank you for coming to give us an update on the Inland Waterway Mooring Committee work.
Yeah, If you'd like to, I can give a real quick synopsis for Jordan and Mike's benefit. If they're up to speed on what's happening, then we can move on. But this has to do with the ordinance draft that we created as a committee and submitted to the town. I believe it was back in the winter of 2019. Subsequent to that, admission of the draft that we had created for the moorings, we submitted that to the town, which was submitted to the town attorney. And a few months after that, the town attorney came back with a different ordinance draft. We worked with that draft as well as our own draft for a while. Not much happened, and then of course the COVID thing hit, so we kind of went away. But with both drafts in existence right now, and having talked to David and having some other side work done and having some other meetings, not only with the committee, but with Justin Twitchell and with Paul Leeper, who's the executive director of the Winnetka Watershed, we've decided to move on with the request for the creation of an ordinance, which was your charge to the committee. And then just wanted to talk to the committee, to the board, about where we are and what your opinion is about how we should proceed. With what level of regulation do we want to move forward on this issue? We're at a point where I believe I asked David to give you our draft and also the town attorney's draft. You also have a synopsis of a discussion I had with the harbor master of Harrison, Maine, which is the ordinance that we chose to model our ordinance after. Because of the size of the town of Harrison and what they do with their ordinance, which has been in existence for quite a while. So those are the drafts that we have to work with. They pretty much meet the charge that you gave to the committee, but there's a different level of administration involved with one as opposed to the other. So what we wanted to do was, before we move on and finalize something and pass it to you, with what your opinion of how we should proceed and to what degree we want to put administration into this ordinance.
Great, thank you. Thoughts from the board on that?
So Jay, this is Mike Gray. So I couldn't tell from the either draft of the ordinance. Are we talking about a proposed 100-foot ring around the bodies of water?
Yeah.
Okay.
What we're doing is dealing with MRSA Title 38, which is the state law that guides this sort of thing. They created a water safety zone in that state law that runs from the shore out 200 feet. What we've done is created two zones within that one zone for purposes of regulation. The first one is the shoreline to 100 feet, which is the shoreland mooring zone. And then from 100 feet out to 200 feet with what we call a designated mooring zone. There's also an issue with creation of mooring fields if moorings aren't placed in either one of the two zones. So we have proposed that there be two zones, the shoreland zone and the designated zone. We have proposed that the authority be given to the inland harbor master to enforce permitting of moorings in only one of those zones, that being the designated zone.
Okay.
We, the committee, in our draft to the board, stipulated that there would be no permit required and that shoreland owners would have out to 100 feet and one mooring per 80 feet of shore frontage a right to have a mooring, which they have right now under Title 38. Our proposal requested that there be a permit and a fee for a mooring that was put into the designated mooring zone between 100 and 200 feet, and that mooring be placed by the inland harbor master, and then an annual fee and a renewal be required for that permit. So the water safety zone is where we're working. There can be no moorings under Title 38 out past 200 feet. We believe that anybody that has a mooring now, there's no reason for them all of a sudden to be required to have a permit for it and a fee paid to annually renew that. So we kind of left that in place. But because there is a requirement for everybody to have the right to have a mooring, we created the designated mooring zone from 100 to 200 feet with the ability to request a permit and pay a fee to have a mooring there, and that being regulated by the inland harbor master. There's a possibility, a very slight one, but there is a possibility that Lincolnville could create a mooring field. The only place that Lincolnville really has to do that is Breezemere. The property that the town owns in Breezemere going out to 200 feet already has a right of way in it for boat launching. It also is a designated swim area. And also the town has an agreement with the boat club to have a mooring and floats out there for the boat club boats. That leaves very little room, if any, for a mooring field, but there may be a position for 1 or 2 moorings out there, which we could, put moorings in if we really needed to. We're being told by the town attorney, you just can't say nobody can have a mooring anywhere, because they are entitled to that because it's not our water, it's the state's water. So we're trying to accommodate that, but not create an over-regulation. If you read the draft submitted by the town attorney, it's a straightforward, regulated, permitted, fee-driven administrative ordinance that requires annual renewal. It requires data collection. It requires follow-up. It requires filing. It requires fee collection. It requires enforcement. It requires quite a bit. So the choice, as far as we're concerned, is that we do something because the town requested us to do that. But the choice really we're leaving to everybody is whether or not we go with a regulation for moorings, giving authority to the inland harbor master to regulate and have authority over those moorings, or will we go with a full-blown ordinance giving authority to the inland harbor master and the town administering all of the administrative things that go along with having that kind of an ordinance.
Okay, thanks.
Other questions for Jay?
Yeah, I do have another question. Yeah, Jay, I was watching a couple of meetings ago, Lakes and Ponds Committee, or it might have been Inland Mooring Committee. That was on YouTube, I watched. And anyway, Paul Leeper mentioned that, tell me if I got this wrong, that he was concerned about houseboat rentals, as it were, boat B&Bs or something along those lines. That is, houseboats being used as rental property in the mooring field, designated mooring fields. Okay, are you familiar with what I'm?
Yes, there is language in some of the ordinances that has to do with anchoring, and anchoring is different than mooring. I don't know of anybody who has houseboats to rent. I know there was a houseboat once proposed to be developed for Levenseller, I believe it was, or something like that, but it's not a common occurrence that you see houseboats anywhere. You see pontoon boats, but those are really regular boats. But I think what he's talking about is somebody having in their possession and launching onto one of the great ponds a houseboat, which I believe would be moved around and probably anchored. You could put something in an ordinance that regulated anchorages, no more than 2 nights, no noise, that sort of thing. But as far as mooring goes, I don't see a problem with mooring a houseboat anywhere.
Okay.
I think you're aware that this issue was driven by the moorings that popped up at Route 52 in Barrett's Cove, and also out on Route 105 at the Bog Bridge area. Those moorings have just all of a sudden, in the last 4 or 5 years, cropped up, and it was a Lincolnville resident who questioned that and what Lincolnville should do about it. And then you created a moratorium and the extension to the moratorium that ran out in 2018. We haven't seen that problem in Lincolnville.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah, so regulation of the moorings on fresh water under Title 38 with authority to be given to the locale, the town, is something you requested us to do, and that's pretty much what we have. Those kinds of issues such as houseboats and other things might crop up, but that doesn't really have to do with regulating moorings.
Okay, thanks.
Well,
Yeah, go ahead, Jordan.
yeah, so, and because that made me just think of it, and maybe not specifically houseboats, but any kind of boat, I mean, there are larger cuddy cabin boats where people, are there regulations against people mooring and using that as a multiple overnight? Forget about if it's rented or not. Is a mooring, is that an allowed usage for a mooring?
It's not stipulated anywhere now, and I don't believe in Title 38. Anybody has a right to the water. So if they launched or built and launched a houseboat onto a body of water and couldn't dock it or wharf it and wanted to moor it, then I guess they could request a mooring and put it. What it couldn't do is exceed the regulations under Title 38 about exceeding the 200-foot limit, out of the water safety zone. It couldn't create a hazard to navigation. It couldn't obstruct another mooring that was legally placed. In other words, swinging into it or something like that. So there would be things that an inland harbor master, given the authority by the town, could enforce against somebody who anchored a houseboat temporarily in one position. As far as mooring it concerns, they can request a mooring. I don't think there's any restriction on what you can put on that mooring, as long as it stays within the 200-foot area and doesn't create a hazard to navigation.
Yeah, Josh.
Jay, do we have a sense of how many moorings there are in Lincolnville Lakes and Ponds?
We didn't take a census of that. I really don't have a handle on it. I think you can tell by traveling the water that they're not a problem. They're not a situation. You have to consider a mooring as being one that either holds a boat, it holds possibly an airplane, or it holds a float. That's a mooring. Title 38 allows one mooring per 80. It's one mooring per 80 feet of frontage. So if a person has 200 feet, they'd have to be allowed two moorings. That would give them a boat and a float or something like that. And that's pretty much what you see. We've talked to Justin over and over. We've talked to David about problems that have come into the town office, and we just haven't heard anything. Justin's had no enforcement issues. I will mention Title 38 covers the shorefront, but Title 17 covers access to the water. Title 17 says that anybody has the right to the water in Maine traveling across unimproved land, as long as they can walk it or a portage, a canoe or something like that. And talking to the Harrison Inland Harbor Master, which I gave you a synopsis of, he said he's never dealt with a Title 17 situation where somebody tried to put a mooring out on the water and access it through unimproved land.
So I was just wondering, we all don't want a situation in Lincolnville like in Camden by Barrett's Cove or Bog Bridge, but I don't know. Since it hasn't been an issue in Lincolnville yet, do you think this is necessary at this point?
I'm going to be expressing my personal opinion here. There may be other members of the committee that can come in and talk to you about it. I don't like to make straight lines crooked. And I think that we may be a solution not looking for a problem, but we were requested to do this because the town saw a potential problem. So we have gone to the extent of creating an ordinance. To the extent that we want to have an enforceable, permittable fee, highly administrative ordinance, I think is up to you to make that decision. We can supply an ordinance that'll go either direction, either a regulation giving authority to the Inland Harbor Master to regulate moorings and place moorings and remove moorings with a permit and a fee for a designated mooring area. Quite honestly, I don't see anybody putting a mooring between 100 and 200 feet off the shore without access to it, except from some other. They'd have to take a boat to get to the boat, is basically
Right.
what I'm saying.
Yeah.
Which doesn't make much sense.
Yeah.
If we created a mooring field at Breezemere, we wouldn't get more than, if we were lucky, one or two moorings in there at best. But we could do that, and we can permit that and charge a fee for that and administer that. That gives everybody the right to have a mooring and also a process through which to go to get a mooring, which meets all the legal check boxes.
Okay.
If you feel comfortable, Jay, would you share with us where your committee work has brought you in your conversations with our Inland Harbor Master and his input?
Yep, Justin has been to quite a few of our meetings. He's been very helpful. What he is looking for is authority. So we put into the ordinance the creation of, the existence of, and the authority under Title 38 for the Inland Harbor Master to do the work an Inland Harbor Master has to do. If you look at the synopsis of the discussion I had with the Harrison Harbor Master, he does not have law enforcement capabilities. He's not a law enforcement officer. Justin is. But if, for instance, if somebody's going better than headway speed in the water safety zone, there's nothing that harbor master can do about that. What he can do is give permission for someone to put a mooring in place and then to collect the fee for that, and then to collect the data for that and the information and file that, and then follow that, and then enforce any issues having to do with that mooring once it's been registered and has a number on it. He has a diver that he keeps on call to move and to place moorings, and also to put them somewhere else if they have to be moved, in his opinion. The thing that impressed me most about the Harrison discussion was that everything that's done underneath their ordinance is done underneath the harbor master. The only time the town office gets involved in anything that they do with the ordinance is they collect a fee. They'll cash the check, so to speak, stamp paid on the application and give it back to the harbor master, and that's all the town office does. He does everything else as far as the collection of data, the filing, the notifications, the enforcement, all that. We talked to Justin about that because we forwarded that information to him, and he said, well, if I have the authority to do that sort of thing, he probably could come up with a way or a process to do that sort of work. I don't know what the stipend is that we give Justin, but it would add to his workload. But what our opinion is that if we adopt the town attorney's draft, we really added to the workload of the town office administratively. That's what I talked to David about. So, that's our opinion. It depends on whether we believe, the town believes, that regulation because of a problem is really warranted, or it's something that we want to put in place as far as regulation in case we end up with a problem springing up like Route 52 or Route 105 Bog Bridge.
Thank you for that. So I have a question for the board and David too. So David, if I can put you on the spot with regards to the administrative end, and this is as much a question for the board. So our town office staff administers the annual paperwork associated with our saltwater moorings. And so it's a two-part question of what is the anticipated additional potential workload with administering a similar set of paperwork, essentially just for a non-saltwater bodies of water, and what could the implications be for a much increased workload for our inland harbor master?
I think the administrative burden probably is in the initial setup of record keeping. The obviously the vast majority of moorings in our inland waters are and most likely will remain with shorefront property owners, which isn't a particularly changing group, and those that come in will more than likely maintain what exists there today. I think it's the initial setup. I am a little bit putting on my harbor master hat for a moment. I am a little bit concerned about not requiring, for lack of a better word, a permit for any mooring that's in the water, because if you don't require it for property owner A who happens to have shorefront property, but you require it for anybody else, how do you know whose mooring that is if it's not registered, not permitted, not, doesn't have some marking on it that we can identify? So the poor inland harbor master, gets a complaint about a mooring and goes to look and it doesn't have a number on it. Okay, well, it must be a shorefront, but it's not necessarily, it could be anybody. So administratively, I think if you're going to register, permit, whatever, I think you have to do them all, so you can track what's there and whose is what, so that if there is a problem, you can readily identify whose mooring is whose. For example, in Lincolnville Harbor, we require the mooring balls to be labeled, and if they're not, then the harbor master can remove them or try to figure out whose they are. Well, label them, which requires a permitting number or some sort of identifying mark. In terms of burden, we don't pay our inland harbor master a whole lot of money, my opinion. You've all have seen his reports. I don't want to downplay his importance, but fortunately, I don't believe he's overwhelmed with what's required of him now. But at some point, everyone leaves their job either by choice or by happenstance, and the next person coming in the door may not be willing to take the job for $1,000 a year when they find out all the work that's involved with it. So once you figure out what somebody needs to do, then you need to look and see if they're being appropriately compensated for the position. I don't think this is going to overwhelm anyone, either option. I just think it's important that if you're going to go the route of registering or permitting moorings, that you do them all so that it's easily defendable and easily distinguishable whose is whose.
Thanks for that, David. Yeah, Jay.
Just a little clarification on the standards of moorings. As David said, that if we say that we are going to regulate moorings, then we have to create a standard for moorings. And Title 38 pretty much does that in terms of the block itself, what it consists of and what it can't. The chain itself, what it consists of and what it can't, what gauge it must be. The ball must be white with a blue stripe. There must be a number on it 3 inches high in black letters. Plus they must be inspected and that sort of thing. So just accepting the moorings that are there will have to be looked at by the town in terms of the moorings that we are going to now talk about regulating will have to meet a certain standard. And if they don't, they'll have to be pulled under the enforcement authority of the inland harbor master, because they do create a safety issue if they're not to a certain standard. If somebody throws an engine block in and puts a rope on it, that's not a standard acceptable mooring. Plus it rusts and it causes an environmental problem too, but that's something else.
Yeah, Kern.
Yeah, I just wonder where Justin has been doing this for so long. When you and your group met with him numerous times, did anybody just look right at him and say, what do you think we should do? I mean, he's got a lot of experience doing this and he hasn't had a lot of problems. I mean, he has always told me that when situations arise, he always tries to just educate first, and that most likely takes care of any situation that he's had. Did anybody ask him what he would like to see happen for progress?
Yeah, I mentioned that earlier when we talked to him. He said what he was looking for was the authority. But in the discussions we had with him, he seemed to be in favor of a complaint-driven authority. In other words, he wasn't going to go looking for anything. He was going to wait for complaints that he could resolve, given the authority under an ordinance or even under his official law enforcement authority. But Title 38, if he is given the authority of an inland harbor master by the town, he does have certain things that he is able to, under his authority, take care of. But his attitude seemed to be, and I don't want to speak for Justin, but his attitude seemed to be that he was really looking at a complaint-driven enforcement situation, as opposed to just going out there and all of a sudden enforcing all of the regulations that were put in place. But he did stress the importance of his being given the authority by the town to do that.
Thank you.
More questions for Jay? So Jay, with all of this work that's been done, what could you just reiterate or clarify for the board what it is you're looking from us at this point in time.
Well, I might ask the board, if everybody has read the two drafts, did any one of them settle with anybody? And did it seem like that's the direction we ought to be taking it? Were you more in favor of the highly administered enforceable one, or they just want to create a regulation? Should we be working on a hybrid of the two? Is there somewhere where the board feels comfortable coming down and going forward with regulation for inland moorings? I guess that's the guidance we're really looking for.
Well, and I would even go one step further, is, you know, with all respect of all the work that's been put in, is this something that the board wants to continue to pursue? Is an ordinance.
My personal feeling is, you know, neighboring towns are already struggling with this. True, we have not had any or a fair amount, even a fair amount of issues yet. I feel that the work that has been put in puts us well ahead of where we were when this all started in our neighboring towns. I feel we should come to an agreement as to what we need to have in place, and whether we adopt it or not, we could have it ready to go. But I think, why not get it done and get it over with? That's just one more thing we don't have to, we don't have to revisit.
Okay, great. Other thoughts? Yeah.
Yeah, I feel the same way. And I also think that doing something like this now, where we're lucky enough that it isn't a problem, and that the inner harbor master can use his discretion and really philosophically only go after, a complaint-driven system. I think what that does is allow you to make, do the paperwork and see where the moorings are, tag them and register them, so that if we have another inner harbor master, years down the line, they have a system in place that they can follow, and it's not guesswork. I just am a big fan of having an infrastructure in place, even if you don't have to use it, because that's kind of the best time to implement something like that. But that's what my thoughts are, is backbone in case you need it.
Great, thank you. Josh or Mike, do you?
I would echo what Kern and Jordan says. Better to be proactive than not. There's been a lot of work put into this. It worries me that right now this may be a solution in search of a problem, but that doesn't mean it won't be in 5 years. And so to have it on the shelf, it would not hurt that we can deal with the problem in 5 years. And I don't want to kick the can down the road, but it's an ordinance, and I believe it's going to go to the voters for final approval. So, like I said, I don't want to kick the can down the road, but at the same time, I don't want to dismiss all the work that's been done. So, right.
Yeah. Josh, do you want to add anything?
Yeah, I can get behind an ordinance, just as long as we're not adding a huge amount of work for anyone. It certainly can be an issue in the future. So as long as we can do it in a way that is not overly burdensome, then I can support it.
Yeah, and I think, as Mike so aptly put, really, it is up to our voters here in Lincolnville who will, make that final judgment. And so I do believe the board or previous boards have heard from our inland harbor master that an ordinance would be an effective tool for him to be able to do his job with more efficacy and give him the enforceability, as Jay put earlier on. And, I feel confident, and I think David reiterated that we have we have the mechanisms in place to handle this sort of paperwork and administrative activities already. And so that part of the updated draft from our town attorney doesn't concern me so much. As David put, you know, the first days will be the hardest days in terms of integrating the system. But you know, I guess I have to advocate on behalf of the draft that the town attorney put forth. I trust her work. I trust her opinion. She tends to look at the long view and the big picture. So I think that continuing to work with that draft and look at putting forward a version of that to the voters would be in our best interest.
I think that draft that the town attorney submitted is pretty much ready to go. I don't think too much work would have to be done to it unless the board feels that there's a bit of over-regulation. I'd like to see some of that kind of, you know, lessened a little bit, which is not a problem. We can do that. But what I'm hearing is that we, number one, want regulation. Number two, we want registration of all moorings, whether they be in the shoreland or the designated. And that we move forward with creating an ordinance that creates regulation, is fee-driven, and is administered by the town office, giving authority to the inland harbor master to do the work that he needs to do.
I think that's correct. Can I get some nodding of heads? I don't think we need a motion necessarily, but yeah, I think, you know, I think ultimately, Jay, you know, trackability and enforceability and, you know, paperwork gives us, you know, the town part of it, the mechanism to be able to have a piece like this be effective. It gives it some tooth.
Having some experience with this kind of stuff with ordinances and things, you're going to have a public hearing. We've been trying to anticipate, you know, when we had a public hearing, I can bet dollars to donuts, the first question is going to be why you're doing this. So we need to have an answer for that. And if the answer is, you know, palatable to everybody, I don't think it's going to be, like David said, initially a heavy push, but I think after a while, when we get things under control and get the ones that are on the shoreline registered, whether or not we charge a fee for that, we will be under the town attorney's draft, which means we have two fees for two different types of moorings in two different places, that sort of thing. But once that's all in place, which will take a little while, a little effort, then it just be an administrative process. I don't see personally a lot of moorings in a designated mooring zone. And I don't see a lot of applications for moorings at Breesmere. So, you know, the push may be to get it done and get it in place, but after that, it may just be sitting on the books for 20 years and nothing ever happens.
It could be, but as it's been said so many times here tonight, you know, I definitely agree with being proactive rather than being in the unfortunate situation that Camden is in of being reactive. Yeah, Jordan.
Well, and also, I look at it as just another. It's transparency. I think that having a process and having that process in the open is just a better way of doing it. I'm not saying there's anything secretive about it, but when there isn't a set system for people to do something or for something to be checked on, I think that it's just not the most efficient way for things to go. And I mean, I think, you know, you put a law on the books, not in the hopes that you will enforce it, but in the hopes that you don't have to. And I think these ordinances are a good example of that. I don't think we're looking at these because we want them to be, you know, people to be targeted or to be over-regulated. It should be there in case it needs to be used.
Yeah, Jay.
There's one point that I'd like to put forward, and that's the fact that Camden has been working on this issue longer than us. Camden actually does have a situation that they need to be dealing with in terms of regulation. But Camden and Lincolnville share the same body of water. So I'd hate to see two different divergent ordinances come into being that conflicted with each other. I think it's a good idea if we stay in touch with Paul and try to get a handle on what it is that Camden's doing, so that the ordinances that come out of both towns at least have some semblance of compatibility.
Sure. So David, I want to put you back on the spot for a second. What do you need from the board at this point in time?
Good question. Well, obviously this is a bit too late for June, but if we're looking to maximize voter participation, I believe we'll be doing another election in November. So at some point, we probably need to think about the actual draft that would be presented to voters in November, so that we could have a public hearing at some point in the future. And we'd also want to start communicating with people that are likely mooring holders now, so that they could educate themselves or work with us to get educated about what the ordinance is or potentially could be and what it isn't. And for a lot of people, their moorings are seasonal in nature, so they're just getting into the season, quote unquote, now, and people are just, you know, some people are here, but others soon will be. So maybe establish, if we're going to move forward with this goal of getting it on the November ballot, and we can back calculate the calendar back to figure out when we actually need to have ballots available and a warrant signed and a public hearing held, so that we can, we won't be right up against the wire, so to speak. It's probably the next step if the board wants to proceed with anything.
Okay. And general consensus from the board, does that plan sound agreeable with everyone?
I agree with that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. Well, David, we can work on the future agenda.
Okay.
I might say that that's not a problem for us either. We can have something done through this summer with whatever deadline we're given to work with. Now that we know that we're going to be working with the town attorney's draft and working through it to finalize it and give it to the town, then I think we're pretty clear on what it is we have to do.
Super. Thank you, Jay, and thank you to your committee too for all the effort that's been put in. Have a great night. Enjoy the warm southern air. I'm sure it's nice down there.
82 degrees and sunny today and a nice breeze.
Oh boy.
Must be nice. Have a great evening, Jay.
Thank you.
Thank you.
And next on our agenda, we had an email submitted to us from Michael O'Neill, a neighbor here of mine on Tanglewood Road. And I see that he is an attendee. And I know from his email, he didn't necessarily want to speak, but we'll put him on the spot anyway. And so, Michael, I think you're on our side. So there you are. Hello, welcome. The floor is yours.
Well, yeah, it's basically, you live on the road, so you know the conditions of it. You know the backstory of the road. Once again, we had another person get stuck and had to get towed out. Myself, I've had to get towed out. And we all know that it's not uncommon during mud season that all our dirt roads, I think it's like 7.5 miles, are just in terrible shape. I think David said at one point a couple of years ago that all the dirt roads in Lincolnville are on the agenda to get paved within the next 10 to 15 years. So I don't know what the update on that one is. But I just wanted to draw some attention to the condition of the road. Right now, you guys somebody did a patch job on it. It just needs to be done again and again and again. So right past your house lately, there's this huge jump that if you don't know it's there, you bottom out. And it's probably a good, I don't know, 8 inches. And then it's just this big pinnacle. But we did a little petition when we kind of just walked around to different neighbors last year. And there was many different questions that had. And I wanted to just see if the board or the town can do a study on how to improve the conditions of the dirt road, whether it's drainage or better gravel, or reshaping the road somehow so it runs off the sides. Because we all love our gravel road, but we don't like the conditions during mud season and all the potholes and all the sinkholes that happen, pretty much year round. I myself, I'm for paving it, but I do have reservations because I know the speeds are going to go way up. And we have a lot of people that walk on the roads or ride their bike or walk their dogs. And I would hate to learn that, because the road becomes quieter and faster, that somebody gets hit or 2 cars hit because they're both going, 40 to 50 miles an hour and they can't move out of the way around a corner. Right now, at least with the potholes, you can hear everything going on for a good quarter mile away. So my concern is, the safety of the people traveling it, if you guys do pave it. So, and I would love to see a study or some type of strategy to manage that, because during the summers, the Tanglewood camp drop-off times in the morning and the afternoon, people make it a part of their daily commute, and they zip down, drop off as fast as possible, and zip back. And we kind of all know not to be on the road at that time. So there's just a lot of questions, and I encourage you to read all the submissions by my neighbors, because I know that they've sent emails as well. And because it's really a collective of residents that live on here that have different opinions, but we all come to the same conclusion that the road is just really bad at sometimes during the year. And most of the time during the year, it's just full of bumps and potholes, and it's really tough on your car and everything like that. So I don't know what the next step is. Maybe you can answer that.
Thank you, Michael. Questions for Michael? I have a question. Oh, yeah, Kern, go ahead.
Yeah. Number one, thank you for participating. We don't normally get a lot of people that participate, and it's good to see a different face.
It's fun.
So in a fair amount of time, let's say we pave that road and things are going along good, but yet going along really good because people, the speed is picked up on the road, and the road isn't, the faster you go, the more the road you take up, and I'm sure that would promote maybe accidents or whatever. What do you think your conversation would be then if we pave that road?
I know that is a huge concern that I have.
One of the biggest things.
Go ahead.
Yeah. No, go ahead. Go ahead.
No, I actually like living on a dirt road. I think there's a lot of people in our community that like to come here and escape 55 or 45 mile an hour traffic and walk their dog or, ride their bikes. Our neighborhood would change. And if somebody got hit or there was a fatality on a road because it became quieter and faster, it would be pretty devastating. But I don't really understand how we could control the speed on the road. And maybe the action is we study other roads that have been converted, and there's got to be, some evidence of what happened and how they've controlled the road. I haven't seen a Waldo County sheriff down here patrolling the road in probably 3 or 4 years. So I know it's not going to be like speed traps. we don't even have speed signs up right now. When I moved here 20 plus years ago, we had 25-mile-an-hour speed limit signs. Those are gone too, so it's pretty much unmarked.
I think number one, with dirt roads in the state of Maine and here in Lincolnville especially, the springtime, we do take a fair amount of complaints on the dirt roads, which I'm sure you can imagine. Our last meeting, we had a whole neighborhood that visited us, which was another good thing to see. And their complaints are legitimate. There are a number of things that loosen a road up in the spring. One is vehicles at a high rate of speed, not caring whether it's a dirt road or not. The other thing is salt mixed with sand on the road. If the dirt doesn't freeze, if there's no frost or doesn't get enough frost in the dirt, and there's too much salt put on it, it's going to thaw prematurely and it's going to be muddy. The other thing is traffic, heavy traffic on dirt roads. That's why we post roads. I don't know if Tanglewood Road got posted this year. I'm embarrassed to say I don't know. I had thought Calderwood Lane got posted, and I'm told it didn't, because the neighbors up there told me they didn't see any posted signs, and I went there myself and didn't see any. So there's a lot of things that factor into what the road condition is in the spring. If all of our dirt roads were paved, that would be great. Like your town administrator said, yes, we do have a plan. But we need to do things in the interim so that we can get to it. One of the biggest things is slowing people down and maintaining the road, in its present state. So I do agree there needs to be some work done, but there's a lot of things that have to be factored in. Safety is paramount as far as I'm concerned. Personally, if we paved that road, I think all the neighbors down there would be mad because of the speeds. It's hard to regulate the speeds on a secondary road, especially if it's paved. But we need this information so we can move forward and make the right decision for these roads for the town. And I appreciate you coming.
Selectman Late, I appreciate everything that you've said. Like I said, I'm not the only one on the road, and I'm not necessarily 100% committed to paving. I like our road the way it is. I just find that sometimes the maintenance, if we can get away with like keeping it nice and smooth, and I know like 1 month out of the year, that's impossible. And like you said, the day before the car got stuck, the 2 days before that, the traffic was just incredible. Everybody was going down the hike, and they were just flying by. So I just wanted to basically say, if we can give more attention to it, and just, even tomorrow where Laidley is, there's this huge jump, and it needs to get cut down. Because if you hit it going anything above 10, you're going to take the bottom of your car out, and then you're going to bottom out. So, and it's pretty much spreading the whole road. You can kind of scoot by it, but I do appreciate your opinion, and we do love our dirt road here, but sometimes it's a super challenge.
Michael, if you haven't yet, I do encourage you to pop on to YouTube and watch our last select board meeting where we met with, I think, all of the residents of Calderwood Road. We did talk about some numbers, which we can get into here in terms of the financial reality of addressing roads, paving, etc. But I just wanted to note to any of our attendees watching, Rich, I see you have your hand up. What we'll do is when we finish having our conversation with Michael, we'll open it up to anyone else who wishes to talk about Tanglewood Road also. I'll just ask that we try to keep points to novel points. So if the same thing has been brought up over and over and over again, we don't need to necessarily repeat ourselves over and over again, but we will definitely give everyone the opportunity to speak for sure. So because of the format, we're gonna proceed along like this for now. So Rich, you'll be next. Michael, yeah, did you have?
I want to say that I agree with Selectman Late that if we had posted it because of the conditions and kept it to local traffic only, and I don't know if you can do that legally because it is a town road.
No.
I don't know if it's posted speed wise or what, but I think we could have avoided a huge amount of mud and problems. But I don't know what's legal and what's not.
So the hard truth is, Michael, and I'll just say this from past experience, is that if this is a huge if, theoretical if Tanglewood were paved, it would move just from the conversation of annual complaints about gravel roads into the other bucket of annual complaints about speeding on all of our roads. And it is something that we deal with all the time. And it is so frustrating because there is next to nothing that we can do about it. And there is a speed limit sign actually just outside our driveway. But obviously it's not super noticeable.
I didn't notice it up front, so, but I agree with you on the speeding. I just can't come back to figure out how to slow traffic down.
Yeah.
I don't.
Yeah. It's a real problem. And that is my first and biggest concern about doing any improvements to the road. Not to be too cheeky, but the speeds at which people scream past is horrifying. There's no other way. It's really surprising, frankly, how fast people are willing to go on our dead end road. Really. Any other questions from the Board of Selectmen for Michael right now? And this isn't to say that you can't come back and say something else if something else comes to mind or you wish to continue the conversation, but I do know that there are likely other folks that may want to offer some thoughts. So just any other questions for Michael right now?
A real quick one for Michael. It's Mike Ray. You mentioned that you'd been talking to some of your neighbors down the road. I was wondering, have any of you or any of your neighbors talked with Tanglewood? Because they are, it seems as if they are the destination and the driver of all the drivers.
We actually have a couple representatives from the camp.
Okay.
So yeah.
Thanks.
We have talked with them and they're very aware of the amount of the speed. I'm not sure if they've thought of, like either moving the drop off up front, and then busing people down, which I don't know if that would even be possible with the amount of campers that they have. And we love our Tanglewood neighbors down there. And, but if there was something that they could do that would, cut the traffic in half, that would be great. But I do want to say the camp, I think, has been toned down this year and it's still heavy traffic going through. So with the increased amount of people moving here, so.
Right. Yeah. Okay, thank you.
Anything else for Michael at this point? All right, any final thoughts, Michael?
No, I was just typing, thank you for your time. And I do want you to read through everybody that we have a lot of neighbors that submitted emails and concerns, because collectively we're a neighborhood and we all have our feelings about the road. And I don't want to be seen as the represented, person that represents the road or the road committee. We're all collectively in this together.
Sure. Yeah. Well, thank you very much for taking the time to come and speak with us.
Thanks a lot.
So David, would you move Rich over? That way he doesn't have to use the chat feature.
Were there emails sent that we haven't got yet? Because I don't see anything.
Well, we were sent, we got a submission in time to be, considered part of the conversation from Jim and Cindy. So we just haven't gotten to that yet, but
okay.
Yeah. And so Rich, you are on our side. If you want to unmute, you have the floor.
Yep.
Welcome. Hi.
All right. Hi. A bunch of things. I've been there for 21 years. It's a dirt road. Is it engineered? I mean, that's the first question. The road has just been layered and piled and layered. I like dirt roads. I think they have a place in Maine, but at the same time, they're a road and it has to be engineered. So the first and foremost is, are we considering and looking at the aesthetic value of a dirt road, but engineering it so that it can actually handle the use? The next thing I'll say is the daily use at Tanglewood is actually a state park issue. So we are University of Maine 4-H entity, but we have a memorandum of understanding with the state park, which means that the park and the university operates in a mutual understanding that we keep that facility open, the 900 acres, as a day use facility. And I can tell you the number of people that use that facility day use is amazing. I love it. I mean, I love the dog walkers, I love the skiers, the snowshoers, the happenstance forager, whatever. But every vehicle that goes up and down that road has an imprint. And so perhaps we should bring in the state park and the state entity to manage that road, because as Mike says, it's really a community thing. We're trying to embellish a feeling, but that comes at a cost. And so I'm all about that. But like, as Dave and I have had conversations in the past, is what is and how is the road being used? And that has to be addressed. I'm not a fan of tarring it, only because speed is a factor. And I don't want Tanglewood to be the basically tar pin cushion for the speeding issues, because we are actively creating our business. It's not just us speeding. It's not just our daycare moms or whatever, or our staff, our young staff. It really is about dampening. Like, how are we going to dampen the speed? How are we going to control the speed subconsciously? And so these are all the things that come to mind when we're managing a dirt road. And trust me when I say, I have an understanding of it. I live in Washington. We have a lot of dirt roads, and I also come from the world of trail building, and that it's all about, the engineering of that road or the trail and the experience that one travels down that road. So I want to be engaged as much as you can invite me to these conversations. I'm there. I'm committed. It's a big problem. It's not just a little thing. And it's a creative nut, and if we can creatively find a solution to please the neighbors and also Tanglewood, and demonstrate to people that as they are traveling down dirt roads, they got to slow down. We're modeling. That's what we're doing.
Thank you very much, Rich, for popping in here. How would you share for the board how long the section of road you maintain is within your gate?
Yeah. So once you hit True Road, there's a monument, and from that point on, there's just a couple 100 feet to the gate, and then from the gate down, there's another mile and a mile of road, and that's the Tanglewood Camp Road. We do little because there's not a lot of traffic. Yes, in the summer we have it, and we have our own issues on the substrate of that. And someday, maybe when we financially are secure, we'll figure that out. But the traffic goes from the tarred road down. It's really muddy in that swampy area, and then the bend, and then it dries up from there.
Yeah. And when do you have a policy, or is it just sort of contingent on environmental conditions of when you open the gate from its winter closure into sort of summer season? Is that for road impact, or is it just security, or what?
So I use it year round, and I plow the road. Am I back on?
Yep, you're still here.
Oh, okay. So I plow the road so that I can get down into camp, but I close the gate so that the public can only go to the gate. They park on the side, and then I access camp and do what I do. So that's pretty much what I do. During the spring and fall, we do have school buses. They typically abide by the speed, although they're a heavy bus, so they're going to have an imprint. And then summer camp, we have our Sunday drop off, and then our Friday pickup, and then our day camp folks, that's daily routine. And so the engineering really needs to compensate for the total use. And that's where I really would advise, and I might be sticking my neck way out, although I have that tendency, that the state park be included in this conversation, in that we are looking at a heightened use. And so that road needs to be engineered to handle that use. If collectively we all want a dirt road, then we should engineer that road to handle the mean highest use of that road, which means summertime and then springtime mud season, so that the neighbors on the road have a safe passage. My sarcastic view is get a bigger vehicle, get a truck. But the reality is, what we really ought to do is engineer the road in consort with the University of Maine and also state parks.
Thank you. Questions from the board for Rich? Rich, we really appreciate you popping in here, and be sure that this is going to be an ongoing conversation. As I said to Michael, this isn't a new conversation, obviously, that the board is having. And I think the consensus from the Board of Selectmen, after listening to the residents and business owners on Calderwood, that this is something that we're going to need to take a more holistic approach to. So be sure that we'll be keeping you in the loop for sure.
Great, thanks.
Yeah.
And please use my contact information to pull me into a meeting or brainstorm, whatever. I mean, I think the town, when they decided to ditch the road and start looking and addressing drainage, is important. But top coating a dirt road that's not premiered, to handle that has a lot to say to it. And then usage. I mean, I have a road right next to my house. It always used to be structurally sound, but then development happened and the usage is just gone through the roof. And so it comes back to whether or not that road has the integrity to handle the usage. And that's the everyday usage of the spring thaw, all of that. And it's a lot. And it all comes down to the dollars. Are we willing to
the internet is misbehaving.
You mentioned dollars and he froze.
The internet didn't like that. Sorry, Rich, if you got cut off, you can always raise your hand and we can try to bring you back. But I think, David, maybe we can pop him over to the other side at this point. And Jessica, who works with Rich, she's a director, just mentioned that they close the road when the camp is closed. So November through April generally for their portion of the road. And so Kern, you had asked about emails, and we did receive an email from Cindy and Jim Dunham, and I do see that they are attendees. I don't know if they want to participate in the conversation or if anyone else wishes to speak with the board regarding Tanglewood. You can put your hand up or use the chat feature to let us know that you want to come over and speak to the board. Kern, were you able to get to that email that David sent out today?
I didn't send that beyond.
Oh, sorry.
Beyond
Okay.
use to alert you. Do you want me to read it?
Sure.
Thanks.
I can as well if you want.
No, that's fine. April 12th, 2021. To whom it may concern, we are writing in reference to the Selectmen's meeting tonight and the agenda item pertaining to Tanglewood Road. We have lived on this road for 40 plus years and have seen many changes in its use during this time. Tanglewood Road was originally built in the 1930s for seasonal access to Tanglewood Camp. Most likely it was built sparingly without much concern for the future. Ideally, we would prefer to see the road surface continue to be gravel, but know that a proper subbase is needed to support year-round usage. Some Tanglewood Road residents wish to have the surface tarred, and we are not opposed to tarring, but many aspects need to be considered. Here are a few of our thoughts/concerns. Number one, safety is number one for both vehicles and pedestrians. 2, the traffic speed on Tanglewood Road is frequently well above the limit, and this is especially true during the summer months. 3, many people walk and bike along the road primarily because of its peacefulness and walkability. 4, maybe seasonal speed bumps need consideration. 5, vehicles sometimes end up in the ditch during the winter, mainly because the shoulder is not well established or identified. 6, if it were to be tarred, we believe the travel lane of the road should not be any wider than it is now. Widening the travel lane, including any cutback of trees, will most likely increase vehicle speed. A maximum 18-foot travel lane with 2-foot gravel shoulders for pedestrians would be ideal, similar to Thurlow Road, but not like Tucker Brook Road. We are not sure about what next steps, but please keep us informed about any future discussions regarding our road. Thanks. Sincerely, Jim and Cindy Dunham.
Thanks for reading that, David. So, and I think the other communications Michael was referring to has been over the years. So anyone else wish to chat with the board about Tanglewood? So I think without completely closing this conversation and segueing into our next agenda item, you know, I think members of the board who have been on here longer, but even with our new board members, we have certainly heard about our gravel roads. And, you know, I think at this point, the Board of Selectmen have had enough conversation about the upkeep and maintenance of our gravel roads, all of our roads, really, and the level of distress that they experience annually. And as we discussed at our last meeting, I think it is a really good opportunity for us to both educate ourselves on the condition of all of our gravel roads. I think it would be wise for each select board member to be really educated in the condition of each mile of our gravel roads, both in their good conditions and less good conditions. And that, as Rich so aptly put, you know, take sort of a comprehensive view on both the structural status and the use of how these roads are being utilized currently. So I would love to get the board's thoughts on this, and specifically get your thoughts on holding a workshop or perhaps another listening session that we advertise and encourage anyone living on a gravel road to participate in, and, you know, do another tour of infrastructure as we've done in the past, so that we can all become really clear on what each mile of these gravel roads look like if you're not intimately familiar with them, and then have a real conversation about what direction the board is going to take when it comes to the care and maintenance of our gravel roads. Do we want to look at paving them? Do we want to look at re-engineering them? You know, what's the direction and what's the plan and how we're going to afford it all? So I'd just like to hear anyone's thoughts. Kern, can I put you on the spot?
Sure. Well, I would just like to say that the gravel roads in the town of Lincolnville today are largely better than they were, say, 25 to 30 years ago. I've lived it right in this town. That a lot of them never used to be passable this time of year. Fast forward up to the last 10 years, we are barely to the middle of April. I know people are frustrated. They can't get out of their driveways. They can't get in. People are going too fast. There's a lot of mud. I get it. Is there maintenance that needs to be done? Yes. Do they need to be re-engineered? There are some that do. There is, I would say, some grading coming up once we get by April, get the frost out of the ground, get the weather changing. So roads will be a lot better, I guarantee it. But I do think, over the years, there has been a significant amount of money put in all of our dirt roads. There is a process. There's a municipal process, and there's also an engineering process to every one of these roads. It's not going to happen overnight. I do agree that we all need to take a road trip, visit our roads. I wouldn't recommend going on them right now unless you want to see the condition of some of them. Make sure there's somebody there that can tow you out if you think you want to drive down some of them. My heart goes out to the people who are having trouble getting in and out of their roads. But this is not something new. We'll have to do them one at a time. I agree. We need to spend some money on them, but I will remind the board that we also need to continue to maintain our paved roads. We should not put them aside. We've been that route once, and it cost us a fair amount of money to get back on top of that. But I do agree that they do need some attention.
Yep. Great. Josh, your thoughts?
Yeah, Laylee, I agree with a lot of the points that you made regarding having a listening session, certainly having a field trip for all of us. And I don't know, maybe just having a list of all the dirt roads in Lincolnville and having a discussion about, first of all, do we want to pave all of them and what that long timeline looks like and the cost. So the town can really see what we have on our plate and can perhaps help us in terms of prioritizing, who we start with. Certainly there are, as we've heard, a number of roads that really are impassable at certain times of the year. Yeah, I think doing all of those is prudent.
Great, thanks. Mike, your thoughts?
Well, I think the suggestion that was in our newsletter, I'm sorry, Rich, you can't, what's in a packet's available, but for a concerted effort road trip, as well as an explanation or a primer for us in Roads 101, road maintenance, the building and engineering of, go a long way. I'd also like to suggest that during this we look at, and as a field trip as well, but we look at all the possible players, like Rich suggested. Perhaps the state park could go a long way. Perhaps maybe we're not alone in this, and we might find other people or other agencies who could take some of the weight.
Yeah, at least with Tanglewood for sure. Yeah.
Yeah.
Jordan, your thoughts?
I guess I don't have too much new to add, other than, I agree with what Richard said. And I think a lot of this is, not that anyone's trying to overtly oversimplify it, but none of these roads can simply just be paved. And I think, a lot of the engineering issues that we have with the dirt roads, we have whether they're dirt or whether we're going to pave them anyway. So like Kieran's reiterated, we're going through a process, and I think hearing from people can only help. So the more we can do that, the better, and just keep continuing evaluating and seeing how we can actually engineer these roads to last functionally until we can actually make a realistic decision about whether or not we want to tar them. But, first of all, just keeping everything functioning.
Yeah. Yep. Great. Thank you. Yeah. And the biggest portion of the budget that we're in direct control of is roads. So it's our big ticket item that we manage. And as we've chatted about so many times, there's no inexpensive way around maintaining any length of road. And, certainly it will neither be quick nor inexpensive. So having a really good and clear plan of how the town wishes to afford the care and maintenance will be important. But I think it'll be great to loop in any partners that we possibly can, just for the involvement, if nothing else. So I guess in the future, we'll just look at including in our upcoming agendas, looking at opportunities for acting on some of these suggestions that were brought up tonight. Sound good to everyone? David?
Yeah, sounds good.
Good? Great. Wonderful. And thank you to everyone that participated. And be sure that we will be trying to include everyone that we can possibly include as we move along in this process. So moving along, we have representatives from the Lincolnville Telephone Company. Yes, we do. And so while David brings them over. Welcome, Alan.
There it is.
You have the floor, and Randall. Welcome, Randall.
Okay. Thank you. Yeah, we're here as it quite simply says in the agenda item, requesting resolve for supporting the LCI Tidewater Telecom Connect Main Infrastructure Grant application. We sent you kind of our one-page proposal, really kind of briefly. It's very straightforward, outlining what we're trying to accomplish. This grant would cover the equipment cost and labor cost for central office upgrades to support a build out of a 10G PON system, including splitters, additional ports and optical network terminals. And it also would include equipment and labor to complete that fiber splicing and snaps at the pole, and the cost from the pole to the house as well, a portion of that. So we are going to be seeking at least a 35% grant from Connect Main, which means we'll be supplying the 65% of capital. We're doing this, we're approaching Lincolnville, Hope, and Appleton at the same time. We recently did quite a big build out in all three of those towns with the federal CARES grant last fall that you're aware of, that 2.6 million. We did about 80 miles of fiber build out in those three towns last fall. And we're now still connecting customers there. That's part of that project. So this is the idea is to leverage that, to build onto that, and to find other sources of funds that are going to allow us to kind of really focus on connecting more folks that are already out there that are on or near a fiber build out, but doing the rest of the connection for them to get that fiber product. About 96% of the homes in Hope, Appleton, and Lincolnville are now kind of have fiber to the home or fiber to the home accessible now. But of that, only about 30% of them, 31% of those folks that are actually could do it have actually made that connection to fiber. So we're getting 2 to 3 to 4 applications per day from those three towns combined in the last month or two. That's starting to really roll in now. So because it's apparent that we've built out quite a bit more fiber there, so folks are wanting to get connected. To be able to accelerate our ability to do that, that's what this first round Connect Main grant application is for this year. So it's that simple. We're not asking for any financial contribution from the town for this round 1 grant application. We're only seeking official support for application from the town and the broadband committee as well. That's it.
Okay. Questions for Alan? Anyone hand up that I'm missing? Kern? Yeah. I'm just going to plug in my computer. Go ahead, Kern.
Okay, in your email to David Kinney, the third paragraph down, it says the grant would allow us to secure equipment and cover the labor costs to install fiber broadband to additional homes in those 3 towns region. What does that mean? Install fiber broadband to additional homes. Does that just mean make it available at the end of the driveway? Or does that mean connectivity in the home?
No, it still would be, it allows us to, the cost for the pole to the house, really, the whole access, our part of that cost is about $1,400. Like anywhere from $1,200 to $1,400 per home. So what we do is we're backing out the part that you pay an installation fee, which covers that first 250 feet of the installation, but then the rest of it is part of the cost that would be covering with this grant. So homeowner would still be paying an installation fee for that first 250 feet. Beyond that, they would have $1 per foot for aerial, and I put the details in the application, in the one page where I sent you all the pricing is below. So it'd be very specific so you can see that. So there's $1 per foot for anything beyond that 250 feet aerial, and $2 a foot, I believe it is, for anything in conduit beyond that. So really that the grant is to be able to help us with a capital infusion with our own money added to that, be 35% Connect Main money, 65% ours at least. And then be able to then, if we're going to be able to connect 1,000 more people, for as an example, in Lincolnville, Hope, and Appleton, that's $1,000 per unit times 1,000 people. So that's $1 million. That's a lot of capital for a small company like ours to be able to do. There aren't that many out there that want that would potentially want that much service. That'd be another third of those 3 towns, basically, now that we're available. So this idea is to have that funding available so we can accelerate our ability to offer that. They'll still be paying an installation fee. There's still that, from if they're beyond the 250 foot part, there's still that additional aid to construction cost that we had before. So that hasn't changed. This is offsetting that. The central office equipment cost to do all those additional, we have to build out our central office equipment in all 3 towns. So we have more splitters and more blades and more ports available for those additional connections. That's pretty expensive. But then the other part is that $1,000 per home. Most of it really is for that optical network terminal and some of the splicing work that happens at the pole. So that's a long-winded answer, but that's part of it. That installation fee is still there. That fee from beyond the 250 feet, as you were saying, from the driveway to the house, if you're beyond 250 feet, is still there.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah, Josh.
There's something I'd like to say. I thought long and hard about LCI's proposal to jointly apply for the Connect Main grant, but I've decided that I don't think working with LCI is in the best interest of Lincolnville. Their least expensive fiber option in Lincolnville, 50 down and 10 up, is $90 a month, if you include the phone line that they require subscribers to have. They also require that residents sign a 3-year contract. I don't know of any fiber option in the country that's this slow and this expensive or requires this long a contract. There's an unprecedented amount of federal and state money flowing into broadband expansion projects. And I don't think it's right that these funds go to expanding fiber networks that are monopolies. LCI is the internet monopoly in our town. Every tax dollar that goes to expanding networks should be for open access networks where multiple service providers can offer internet service, not monopolies. So what should Lincolnville do instead? I think we should continue to work with the Midcoast Internet Coalition, a group of 8 municipalities and counting in the Midcoast, to form a regional internet utility that would build an open access fiber optic network in our community. Midcoast Internet would run fiber to every home, and no one would get left behind. The minimum speed would be 100 over 100, while offering 1 gig service for those who want it. And the network would be open so multiple service providers could offer internet service. And who doesn't love competition? To me, this is a once-in-a-generation opportunity to build a network like this. The massive amounts of federal and state money for broadband can help jumpstart the project, and the rest can be funded through revenue bonds that would not increase taxes on anyone. I think it's also important to note that if we join LCI on this Connect Main grant application, we're shutting the door to working with the coalition, as we would be actively working against building an open access network in our town. We would be choosing a short-term fix versus a long-term solution. And so I invite everyone in our community from Lincolnville, Hope, Northport, Camden, Rockport, Rockland, Thomaston, South Thomaston, and others to join our coalition to build an open access network that serves everyone. I think we'll be more successful if we work together.
Okay. Other thoughts? Yeah, Mike.
Yeah, well, I tend to think resolves on the part of municipal governments should be reserved for larger legislative issues or policy issues, and then only if they are expressing the expressions of the citizens of the town. Otherwise, I'm not so sure that it's appropriate here, that is a resolve for the assistance. And secondly, it strikes me as extremely premature. The Lincolnville is doing research on what the best options are. LCI is an option. There are other options on the table. And we are just starting up or restarting a broadband committee to look further into those options. And to choose one over the other seems premature. And thirdly, what you're asking the broadband committee to do in this language here really restricts them in doing research on options. That is, they would be spending their time doing legwork for LCI and Connect Main. And I'd rather not, and that's not in the charge. I'd rather see them looking into options than doing work. And the fourth thing is, last time you were here, Alan, you and Randall said, hey, no big pressure, no worries. If you guys aren't comfortable with this, we'll catch you next time. That's my 2 cents.
Sure. Okay. Jordan.
Well, I echo those sentiments, and it's also I don't think that now it's a good option for Lincolnville. You guys were very candid with us last meeting, which I appreciated, and even by your own admission, if we backed you guys to get this grant money, it wouldn't increase our timeline at all, because you've said that you don't actually have the capability to fulfill the services that you have now. We can go back to the tape and look at that, but you were very honest about it a few times, which again, I appreciate. But I'd be remiss if we helped a private for-profit company acquire public tax money that's intended for the freeing of and creating of equity for underserved municipalities as far as broadband. And us helping you do that, I don't see that furthers our goal of 100% coverage for houses in Lincolnville either. Again, according to your own admissions, you receiving these funds, in fact, would be a hindrance to your ability to serve Lincolnville in an increased capacity. So I don't think this is something that's right for the town. And I think that if we were to work together in the future, I think I would be totally amenable to that, but it couldn't be one-sided, which it is right now. Unfortunately, the town has no leverage. We're kind of at your mercy. Again, we have clearly stated a mission statement to try and find a way to get 100% to the house service with broadband, and I just don't see how that's possible with LCI right now. And I would hope that if other communities decide not to move forward in this grant process, that you would respect that and not try and file for that with Connect Main, despite the fact of the communities not being with you. Thank you.
Okay. Any follow-up thoughts or any action the board wishes to take? Yeah, Alan.
I don't know, there are no particular questions in those last three, and that's fine. I understand, and I do appreciate that. I know you all are doing a lot of work with the Mid-Coast Internet Coalition, Broadband Coalition, and that's and we respect that. We respect the will of whatever the board decides tonight as well. But I just want to, we can, in fact, we do reserve the right, obviously, to go ahead and apply for grants with or without the town. We did say that last time. That still is obviously an option. It's always better for us to do that with the town. We've had a lot of success in doing that and being able to bring those grant funds in, which allows us to move faster, to get more fiber out to more folks. We're gonna, we'll have to take that into consideration. Appleton has agreed to work with us on this. Bristol, we've just had the same agreement with as well. We're doing a small one just today that we closed off with a small one, a Connect Main grant that we're playing in this round with Waldoboro. So there are 3 towns that did see the merit of that. We're going to be meeting with Hope tomorrow night, so we'll see what they say as well. But once again, the data is there, and I hope you do get a chance to take a look. Make sure you take a look at the data that I supplied with that on the second page. Also, it shows you how many folks are there, how many houses we're in front of, how many are left, and really what can be done with these funds. So that's all. I mean, we understand that you have to make this decision, and I appreciate the voices that I've heard here. I think there were some things I think weren't exactly accurate, but we're not going to go and relitigate and discuss all of that. But I appreciate it. First of all, it's not $90, it's $70 for the 50 by 10, and that includes the phone and the 1,000 minutes of internet, but of long distance. But I know that's only a $20 difference in the scheme of things. But we do like to be accurate with that. So that's all. I appreciate your time. I know you've got a lot on your plate. I attend a lot of select board meetings, and I throughout the Midcoast and broadband committee meetings. I mean, like 2 or 3 a week. And I'm oftentimes the last person on the agenda. So I learn a lot, and I appreciate what you guys have to do. And of course, I know you're getting paid big bucks to do this job. And I know that's, I mean, facetious, obviously. So I know it's hard to do that. And your struggles with infrastructure and small towns, it's really hard. That public-private partnership is part of that. Just don't forget that. Tanglewood Road, a dirt gravel road. It's beautiful out there, and it's one of those most remote places there are. And they have fiber. Every home, every business, and every nonprofit on that road has access to fiber now. At our cost, there was no Connect Main money, no other capital money, just our capital. So that's true also. Thank you.
Can I ask a clarifying question? Because you made a statement there, Alan, and it seems like that it's your intention to apply for a community grant on behalf of Lincolnville without our support. Did you not mean that, or can you explain the statement, please?
Yeah, no, what I was saying was we've applied for grants. We've applied for Lincolnville grants before, without Lincolnville's actually signing on and endorsing it. We always like to talk to the community. We've done other Connect Main grants with or without the communities. Frankly, the grant applications work better. Obviously, if there is community involvement, if the select board or the broadband committee, or there's that kind of engagement process, and it works well. That way, it's reflective of what the town wants, what the private partner wants as well. So, but I'm just saying that doesn't restrict us from, we can, if we choose to, apply. I just want to make sure that was clear.
Okay. Thank you, Alan.
Sure.
Yeah, Josh, final thought.
Yeah, and I just want to thank you, Alan, for attending. I know this is not an easy job, but I just want to say where I got the $90 figure from. I asked a number of people in Lincolnville if they could send me their bill, and they did. And I asked specifically for people that had 50/10, and it added up to 90. So that's where I got that from.
Okay. Yeah, that includes, that's all the taxes and fees. You're right. It's $70, $69.95 plus the taxes and fees. That does add up to that, which is just lower price than anybody who's actually still on DSL now that we haven't been able to convert over yet. So that's another thing to consider. They can go from DSL to 50/10, and their price will go down lower than they're paying now.
Mm-hmm.
So I don't know. That's a good thing. Thanks.
Great. Thank you. Alan, we appreciate you coming and being patient. Unfortunately, you're in the middle of the agenda. If that shows you how much more work we have left to do tonight. So we definitely appreciate your patience and your willingness to involve us in the conversation. So I think at this point, we can let you have your evening back to yourself. Thank you very much for attending. And Select board, I am going to gather from the voices that I heard tonight that no motion is going to be put forward. Okay. Well, we thank you both for attending and have a wonderful evening.
Thank you, Alan.
Thanks, Alan. Take care.
Lately, may I, now that it's just us and we haven't moved on from this, can I just ask a question of my fellow board members?
We had the conversation. We had the conversation at hand. There's no real other conversation to have at this point.
Oh, I just wanted to ask a question, but I didn't. Sorry.
Well, is it pertinent to, I mean, it's pertinent to nothing because there's no action taken. So what's the need?
Well, yeah, I guess I just wanted to discuss what was just said by Alan about the application to Connect Maine. And there is action related to that. So that was it.
Yeah, it's not, I mean, not that it's irrelevant, but the board has done its business with regards to that agenda item. And considering that we have a lot of other people waiting patiently to talk with the board, I think we should move along. So with that being said, we are back to agenda item number 17. We have our fire chief who has been patiently waiting. Was everyone able to access the information that was sent out with regards to the surplus items? Yes, no?
Yes.
Okay, great. If everyone wants to make sure that they have that in front of them so we can proceed. And we have our fire chief here. Welcome. I think you're muted.
There, is that better?
Yes. All right, you have the floor.
All right. We've made some improvements or upgrades really in the fire department to our firefighting equipment as far as our SCBA, which is our self-contained breathing apparatus. Some people know them also as the air packs. We have put enough money away from the Community Foundation donations to replace all of them as well as the bottles. And in lieu of replacing that equipment, we had to buy a larger air compressor to fill the bottles because the new standard is 4,500 PSI, where the old one was 2,216 PSI units. So now in the next month, we'll be taking all of our old SCBA out of service. And I'm kind of looking for permission to donate any of that equipment that we don't want to save to any mutual aid towns or possibly Matinicus Island or Matinicus Fire Department.
Great. Kern, you have your hand up? Sorry, I missed you.
I would first of all, thank you, Donnie, for taking the time to approach us with that. And I feel that your idea of making sure that our mutual aid partners are well equipped or as equipped as they can be by means of donating them the equipment that we no longer need is the right idea. Would that also include the compressor to fill those bottles, or is that something that would be sold at auction, or what's the process with that?
The compressor has a lot more value than the old air pack assemblies because pretty much everybody is upgrading to 4,500 PSI because that's the new NFPA standard.
Yep.
So I've spoken with some of the other mutual aid towns. They already have compressors and they all seem to be of higher quality than what we have to sell or donate. So the compressor company that installed our new compressor Really couldn't give us a value on it, but we were able to speak with the guy who installed the compressor, and he gave it a value of around $1,200 to $1,500. And local diver happened to be contacted by the company, and he offered $3,000 for it. So he offered twice what they value it at. So I think it might be worth selling it if we're allowed to sell it to an individual. I don't know what the rules are as far as that dollar amount, if it has to go out to bid or we can choose to sell it.
Yeah, Kern, well, and for the entire board, I think the air packs and bottle, it really are the only thing that fall under our ability to donate them. And everything else would have to fall under having probably a special town meeting of some sort to get the permission of the voters to allow us to dispose of them as we see fit, whether, you know, it's to sell them or whatnot. Considering their value, which is $5,000 or greater. So what is the board's thoughts? Let's just address the donation concept. And David, just for sort of a procedural point, do we need to just declare them surplus first, or
probably the first thing to do? Yes, in essence, if the chief's recommendation is that they're surplus, then in essence the board gets to confirm that they don't have any, no longer have in essence a municipal purpose, and then you have to decide how you want them disposed of. And there's a couple of hurdles. If you think it's worth more than $5,000 in the board's judgment, if it's worth more than $5,000, you don't have the authority to dispose of it. If it's worth, in your judgment, $5,000 or less, then you can basically dispose of it in terms you think are in the best interest of the town. So there's a couple of different hurdles there, and that's kind of why I broke it out into the three separate items. And then on top of that, that's a little bit compounded by the request of what you do with the proceeds if you choose to sell them. Because the way it's set up now, it goes, as the chief indicated in his email, it all goes into the general fund. You can ask the voters to do something different with those proceeds, particularly if you're going to go to them and say, hey, we'd like to dispose of something that's worth $10,000. You can ask them in that same question, can we dispose, with the money we bring in from this, can we put it in here? I don't think anybody would deny, well, there may be someone. It's doubtful in my mind that the voters would choose to do something differently than what the board recommended in terms of disposing of excess personal property that the town doesn't need any longer. But still, there's the process of asking. I did communicate with the principal at the school today, who said that they could make an outdoor space available to us if you wanted to do something sooner rather than later in terms of holding some sort of socially distanced outdoor special town meeting to seek voter approval for some of this stuff. Yeah, did I talk around that enough?
Perfect. So the long and the short of it is we've got the air packs in the bottle, and then we've got, which really is the only thing the board could take action on tonight. And then,
well, you could take action on the air compressor system as well. Mm-hmm. It's your judgment as to whether something is worth more or less than $5,000. Based on the chief's conversation with the technician and an offer somebody gave you, I think it's probably reasonable to assume it's worth less than 5,000, but maybe you think it's worth more. I don't know. And I don't know what it's worth. But the compounding thing with the air compressor system is if you want to take the funds that come back from the sale of that and use it for something other than putting it in fund balance, you're going to need to ask the voters to do that.
Yeah, so I guess my argument, maybe I intellectually jumped ahead, is that if we as a board can agree to package the air compressor and the John Deere tractor together in a special town meeting, then those funds can go specifically back to the fire department, rather than having to, it just seems to be more efficient.
Yeah, you'd likely have at least 2 questions, one to address each in case, who knows, if some reason the voters didn't want to get rid of the air compressor system, but were happy to get rid of the tractor, you know, they could vote separately. Sometimes linking those things together might be, might cause some voter angst, I guess.
Sure, but having them at the same.
Yes, at the same time.
Yeah, okay. Yeah, so thoughts from the board? Or questions for our chief?
My thoughts are that however these are moved along, whether they be donated or sold or whatever, I feel it's important that the money go back to the fire department.
Yeah, agreed.
Yeah, Don, as far as the breathing apparatus, I guess it's your call who you think would benefit most from them, whether it's Matinicus or mutual assistant town. But seems like donation seems like the right thing to do, certainly. Yeah.
Okay. Great. No, yeah, I think Matinicus would like to have a couple air packs because they do have some really, really old equipment out there. So they could benefit, but also Hope Fire Department could use some of the newer bottles that we have. The newer bottles are made of carbon fiber instead of thick aluminum. So really helps with firefighter fatigue. You know, least amount of weight you can put on your back, the better off you are.
Yeah, sure.
Does someone wish to make a motion?
Well, let's see.
Can I help the board just a little bit? Maybe.
Yes.
I was going to jump on that, but sure, yeah.
I didn't write it down, but in terms of the air packs and bottles, I think it would be appropriate if the board made a motion to declare the SCBA bottles and air packs as recommended by the chief as surplus with a value of less than $5,000 in your opinion, and to authorize the chief to donate those to a fire department in need.
I make that motion.
Second.
That counts.
Moved by Selectman Garrettson, seconded by Selectman Late. Not exactly how I'd like it to go down, but you phrased it correctly, Josh. Thank you. Is there any discussion? Seeing no discussion, Selectman Late, what's your vote?
Yes.
Selectman Garrettson?
Yes.
Selectman Ray?
Yes.
Selectman Barnett Parker?
Yes.
Selectman Dunn, my vote is yes. Thank you very much. Now, to have a conversation about the air compressor system. What are the board's thoughts in terms of whether it is $5,000 or less, including it on a warrant for a special town meeting with the John Deere tractor? Good idea? Yes? No?
This is to sell it?
To get permission from the voters to, then that would be up to us to decide whether we wanted to sell it, seek bids, auction it. Let's not auction, but you know, all the variety of things that we could be empowered to do by the voters.
I would say, yeah, we should, let's have a special town meeting and do that as soon as possible. It's
Okay.
practical.
So David, can we just make a simple motion to declare them surplus and,
At this point, it's probably best to get a nodding of the heads or whatever on the sale of or seeking voter approval for the sale of the air, or the board to have authority to dispose of the air compressor system and the John Deere tractor on terms you deem, stealing from the article that they approved in June, on terms you deem in the best interest of the town, and with the proceeds from any sale to be go to the fire truck fund or whatever fund you want. And then what we do is prepare a warrant for your next board meeting, so you could sign, we could post, we could get it out there, and people could attend if they so chose to act on that.
okay. So you're looking for a nodding of heads at this point.
Or if I've misstated the ability to dispose of both of those items on terms and condition you deem advisable and where the money would go, then speak now.
Is David incorrect in any of his assumptions?
No.
I don't see anyone screaming, David.
Okay, and everybody's satisfied with a socially distanced special town meeting outside? They do have a tent at the school, or open sided tent, that if it's inclement weather.
I look forward to it, yeah.
I say we try for it.
Okay. I'll have something for your next meeting agenda to approve and sign and move on.
Chief, anything else from you?
No, nothing else. I mean, as far as having a special town meeting, I wouldn't be opposed to you guys taking your time so that everybody's comfortable going to a socially distanced town meeting. I wouldn't push it any harder to, get it done quickly. We've had the tractor for 11 years and it's been sitting there for 3 years unused. So it's another 6 months isn't going to hurt anything.
Yeah. Okay, great.
Thank
you for joining us.
Yes, thank you.
Thank you.
Okay. Thank you all very much. And next up is Selectman Barnett Parker. You have the floor.
Well, I had brought this up a couple meetings ago, I think, about looking into short-term or term life insurance for the volunteer fire department or firefighters. And now that we have some time and we're not trying to rush it onto something, I was hoping maybe we could get some more information to whether or not there's anything provided by the MMA or by any other entity for the firefighters. Even if there is, I would like to look into the cost for providing a minimum of $50,000 to $100,000 worth of term life insurance.
Okay. Thoughts from the board?
Good idea. If the Wage and Policy Personnel Board, if their plate isn't full, I say give it to them and let them see what they find out.
Okay. Kern, Josh?
I remember, Jordan, when you mentioned this, and that was right in the middle, we were working on the budget there. And I thought Maine State Federation of Firefighters, I think we need to check into that. I don't know why I think that, but I just thought that there was something there for our firefighters. So I think that would be worth looking into as well. And yes, Mike, probably the Wage and Personnel Board should look into this, see what is available out there, or if something's already there.
Since we still have the chief with us, would it be okay with the board if we put him in the hot seat and asked?
Yes,
absolutely.
Definitely.
I'm not sure right now if we have anything. I do remember when I was younger that we all had some sort of life insurance, but this was probably 12 or 14 years ago. when I was kind of new to the fire department. So I know there was something, but I don't recollect who it was through or what the amounts were or anything.
And just Penny, for your thoughts in terms of the concept.
I think it would be great. I mean, God forbid anybody pass away during a fire or anything like that, but it's, it would be a nice thing for a family if they ever had to deal with that.
Sure. Yeah. Thank you.
You're welcome.
Yeah, Kern, I mean, I think that could be, part of creating a supplemental charge to the Wage and Personnel Policy Board to do that legwork.
Absolutely. I'm in favor of that.
Me too.
Would you care to make a motion?
I would love to, if that's okay.
Go ahead.
Thanks. I move to have the town administrator prepare a supplemental charge to the Wage and Personnel Policy Board concerning a possible life insurance benefit for the town's firefighters for the board's consideration.
Second.
Moved and seconded. Any discussion? Seeing no discussion. Selectman Late, what's your vote?
Yes.
Selectman Garrettson?
Yes.
Selectman Ray? Selectman Ray?
There, yes.
Okay,
Yeah.
great. Selectman Barnett Parker?
Yes.
Selectman Dunn, my vote is yes. Motion passes. Thank you. And I think unless you need us for something else, Chief, you can go enjoy your evening.
Thank you so much.
So David, would you care to give a preamble for agenda item number 19?
Sure. My understanding is after a number of years without having legislative earmarks in Washington, that the House Appropriations Committee this year is considering adding earmarks to the budget documents, which would fund various and sundry improvements on a project-specific basis. Just got relatively short notice about this, but you have a packet from Representative Golden's office regarding potential projects or things or how to apply. Community engagement and support, as it says in there, is crucial to determine what projects are worthy. Kind of hard to get community engagement and support when it's due in 2 days, but there it is just the same. So if anybody's got any particular projects in mind, you get 2 days.
I don't, David, but I got a couple questions. I looked through it and saw all these great possibilities, but of course it's 2 days from now. And so 2 questions. One is, this is coming out of a decision to use earmarks again, correct? So we don't know if we're going to get the same opportunity 2, 4, 5, 6 years from now. Is that correct?
That's correct.
Okay. And second, you don't have something in your bottom drawer all ready to go, do you? Supporting document.
I
that you
do
can
not.
just send out to.
I do
No?
not
Okay.
have a list of shovel-ready projects.
Yeah, okay.
No, on my desk. No.
Okay.
Well,
And lastly,
Sorry, not to disagree with you, David, but I feel like we've got this new park that we're going to be staring down here quite rapidly that's going to require potentially a lot of taxpayers' dollars, and or the conversation that dominated the most of the evening, which is our roads. So I feel like there's immediacy to the park project, but also immediacy to our roads. So.
Right, and I I hate to counter the counter of the counter, but why not counter the chair a little bit here?
Do it.
You know, in terms of the park, this isn't something that they're looking, I don't believe, in terms of like an ongoing, what ought to be, for lack of a better word, maintenance project. It's more like a sewer extension or an airport or a bridge to nowhere that got us all in trouble with earmarks before. So I again would say I don't have something I'm going to turn around and grab off the shelf and say, here's, you know, $500,000 project. This would be something that might have been ideally suited had we been further along in our investigations for like the boat launching ramp project or something that nature. I do also, I think on some of those, like the boat launching ramp, or if we were going to do a specific project at the new park, I think there are other programs out there that might even be better suited than an earmark. Might not have to compete as much, but sorry, I wasn't.
Yeah.
I didn't really think these were coming back to life, to be honest with you, and was kind of surprised when found out they were.
Well, and I completely stepped on Mike too. So Mike, sorry.
No, that's no problem. No, that's no problem at all. No, I was going to ask you, David, it is, in your opinion, do you think it's worthwhile making a call to one of these golden representatives and saying, really, 2 days, all supporting documents? Can you give us 2 months and see what they say? Because it's a matter of, I mean, there are a lot of ideas that lately mentioned are included in, could be included in whatever projects they're offering. But it's getting them the full package in 2 days. That ain't gonna happen.
Right. Well, some of it, part of the 2 days is the fact that by the time this really came out in the wind of it, and your meeting was 3 weeks away.
Yeah, sure. I understand that. Yeah.
Put a little bit of burden on, but I think this is better suited for larger, more long-range projects that we may not, my opinion, we're not really ready for.
Yeah.
We can certainly call and ask. I suspect a lot of this is coming because they're looking to have these things, that the representatives are stuck with the timeline that wasn't of their doing too. You know, they've got to get their 10 projects or whatever they're going to fine tune it down to and pass it on up the line. We can certainly make contact with whoever's in the Waldo County, Morgan Urquhart, and ask that question. I don't really think there's going to be an awful lot of flexibility on their end, but never hurts to ask. And this is where we might be well suited for some of the conversations that the board has been having about having an updated comprehensive plan, so that we had a knowledge that we had $500,000 worth of sidewalks. I'm just making that number up and the project up, but you know, some of these things more in the queue, shall I say, than doing it on the fly.
Yeah.
Anyone else?
It just seems too short a time period to really get anything meaningful together. You know, obviously we can all think of tons of great projects for our town. But.
Yeah.
All righty.
I will say that I did share this with the chair of the Mid-Coast Internet Coalition in hopes that they might be able to consider doing something. And I think in turn, she reached out to the folks at Mid-Coast Economic and Community Development Corporation to see if there was any opportunity they might regionally do something, but
great.
I don't know the answer to that either.
Super.
Yeah.
Okay, well, folks, in the disjointed agenda, we have ticked off everything except for agenda item number 22. And 23, but that one will have to wait for now. So if someone would like to make a motion, we necessarily need to have an executive session to have a conversation now.
Move that the board enter into executive session pursuant to Title I MRSA Section 4056C to discuss the possible disposition of real property where premature disclosure of the information would prejudice the competitive bargaining position of the town.
Second.
Moved by Selectman Late and seconded by Selectman Barnett Parker. Is there any discussion?
Yeah, real quickly, just a point. I haven't received a link for this, David. I assume there's a separate executive session link for this. Yeah, right. Yeah. That seems to be going into Deep Abyss email portal. I've no word. Anyway, so can I just use the same method of getting in touch with you and you sign me in?
I will, well, you could, except you don't have any way to get on the thing. I will, after I stop this meeting, I'll walk down the hall and send you a separate link that doesn't come from Zoom.
I just sent you the link, Mike,
Oh,
to your Gmail account.
Okay, so we're good. Okay, thanks. That's all.
Okay, any further discussion? Selectman Late, what's your vote?
Yes.
Selectman Garrettson,
Yes.
Selectman Ray,
Yes.
Selectman Barnett Parker,
Yes.
Selectman Dunn, my vote is yes, the motion passes. So we will see you find public elsewhere another time and select board.